Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, I hope that you will hit the like button and let me know. And if you'd like more similar to this one, please subscribe. And if you have a request, a question, or some feedback, please leave me a comment on to today's topic. Today we're going to be looking at the infamous if statement, if then else in Excel. You hang in there though, you may find a couple of, at least one thing you can use if you use this function a lot. So let's go. Well, so why the if function if it's so popular and so used, everybody knows about it? Well, I ran into this following situation that caused me down this path, and you'll see it as it goes here. But I downloaded a file from the internet, and it's an XLS format. And so I have this, in this file, I have a subcategory, and I wanted to give it an ID, just for sample purpose, for demo purposes. So I came over here and I was doing my standard type in, and there's 17 of them, and I typed this in and it gave me that I entered too many nestings for the formula or for the format. And I thought that was weird because I have Office 65, and I thought the application would override the actual version of the file. It doesn't in this case, and this brings me to an even weirder point. I said, okay, so I looked that up. But in the meantime, I just want to show you something over here. It's the same file, and if you have Office 65, you have this Lambda function, which means that you can define your own functions and use them as a regular function, so you don't have to keep writing them out in detail each time. Anyway, that is in Office 65 only. So I went ahead and I applied it here, and you can see that it works. So that works, but the nested function didn't work. Regardless, that's caused me a little bit of confusion there. So when I was looking up the limit of the if function, I came across this way of getting over that. So if you're in a situation where you have, whether it's the current or the XLS version, which is 7 or 8, or your Office 65, or in that realm, it's like 64. If you're in that ballpark where you have too many if functions, you can do the following. And here's this. Let me show it to you. And now that worked. Why did that work? There are 17 of these. Well, if we take a little bit closer look here, let me bring it up into here. It's easier to look at. Oh, not over there. But if you'll notice that I have multiple if statements in there concatenated together. So when I got to the limit of 7 or 8, then I closed it off like you do normally, put nothing at the end here, then you can concatenate another set of 8, which I did, to here, and then I concatenated the last one over here, and that got over the issue. It was able me to do 17, so if you at the 64 limit, you could do, the same thing. I found that quite interesting. I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. But then I looked it up more, and I found out about the 64, and it's actually not highly publicized. In other words, it wasn't the first thing that came up was said, hey, it's 64. Actually, the 7 or 8 came up first multiple times. So that leads me to the next thing that I found that I thought you might like. So in the process of investigating this a little bit, I came across this new function for Office 65. It's called the ifs function. It's the same as the if function, but what it does is it eliminates you from having to write the additional if. So if you take a look at this a little bit closer, and I'll pull it up here on another screen, you can see that there's only one closing parenthesis at the end. And I don't have the if function here. I have P2 equals something, P2 equals something, P2 equals something. It just assumes the if until you get to the end. Let me show you on another sheet that's a little bit easier to read, I think, and it compares. So here you have the if 16, the straight 16 or 64, however, and look at all the closing parentheses you have to put at the end. You have to remember that. I don't know if you're ever getting caught in that. You missed that. It's real easy to do. Here's the nested one. And they actually look the same, so I made a mistake there. Let me flip over. Okay, restored myself. So here we have the nested 8 one where we have multiple concatenation of 8 if statements in a row. And still, that's very busy. And then you have the if-s down here, and you notice it's just if-s. Then you just put in your variable and what it equals and what you want it to do when you're done, and you just carry it on. Same as the nested if. You can do and ors in there as well. Still complex if you have over, I don't know, even 4. You can start missing commas and quotes and ending parentheses and whatnot. So after reading up on this 64 nested, and most of the experts recommend that you don't do that. You don't put that many in there because it gets very complex, hard to debug, hard to read. So what is an alternative to that? Now, if you're using if statements more than 3 or 4, even if you're just using 1, doesn't matter, and you're not doing this in VBA, I really recommend that you try it. And it's super simple. So you don't have to be this VBA. There's not this wall of, I'm not a coder. And that's not how you start out. You have to start out with an issue, with something that you want to solve. And it's real easy to build from there. And an if statement is a perfect place to start because we've all used it. We're all comfortable with the syntax of it, if, then, else type of statement. So we can simply go right over into VBA. Now, how do you get to VBA? If you have Developer tab on, up, or clicked, you can use Visual Basic. If you don't know where that is, you should know that. Go down to Options, File Options, go to Customize Ribbon, and over on the right, you'll see Developer tab. Give it a click and then OK, or simply just do Alt F11. Now, here's the simplicity of it. It's writing a function. When you write a function, the function actually is available to you after you hit the equal sign in your cell in your workbook or your worksheet. Now, here's the simplicity of it, is that you can write as much as you want, and here's that same if statement with the 17 in there, and you can customize it, you can transfer it, it is not limited, but here's how you do it. You just simply type in the word function. Then this is the value that you want to return, but this is also the name of the value. In other words, that's going to show up in your equal sign. So when you hit equals and you type in PCAT, this function is going to come up. What's inside the parentheses? These are the variables. In other words, when we say if and then we say C2 equals something, that's what this is going to be. This is going to be that cell or whatever cell you define when you're creating the formula. And then you have to give it a variable type, and it's going to be string, integer, double, large, so on and so forth. So you're going to say it's a string because it's coming in bookcases. It's a string. Then my actual value that I'm returning, which is pcat, is going to be an integer, and that's why I've ended here with as integer. So CName's coming in as a string, and I'm returning it back as an integer. And I just wrote the same things. Now, notice the thing is that you do not have to be VB. It's the same syntax for the most part. Now, you have if CName equals bookcase. Then exactly what you do. You say pcat equals 1 because that's what you're going to return back to the cell. Back to the cell. Now, this is very right here. This is more work than you need to do. This is something we're used to. You have to put an end if, otherwise it thinks the if is going on forever. So that's what all the parentheses are for in the Excel function. And not recommended way here. They made it simpler, and I put it down here. And what they did is they said, okay, same thing. We've got pcat2, cat name, string, pcat returns as an integer. Okay. I said if the CName equals bookcases, then pcat1. Then, well, if it's not bookcases, then I say else if, and that saves me having to write if again. Well, I write it in the else, but separately. But I don't have to put an end if there, so it's kind of like the if s. It's only going to be one parentheses. So you can put this in there, and so you got else if, then you continue down, and then when you get down to the end, you just say end if. Now, typically, as soon as you write the word function in, it puts the end function in there, so make sure that's there. So that is as simple as it is. You just simply type it in, and we'll create a simpler one in a minute here. But I just want to show you how well it works. So we flip back over here. Now make sure it has to be in a file that ends with the XLSM. So if you're using any other ending, it's not going to work. So make sure that the file's in the XLSM. And so we can come over here and we can type, I'm going to give it a name, VB cat, right, equals. Now notice, there it is. Typed in wrong. There's my pcat, pcat2. So as soon as I type that in, it does the same thing. It puts in the name of the function and then puts a open parenthesis and says, okay, what's my input? I'm going to come over and click on F2, so it could be anywhere. And apparently I did something wrong here. Give me a second. There's actually a good reason to show you this. One of the things that's good about doing it in the VBA editor too is it finds mistakes for you rather than you having to go in and edit them. I don't know how many times I've gone into an if statement that was rather long and you're trying to find that one comma, that one quote, or something that you just did wrong, forgot a parenthesis, something. This automatically tags it for you. Anyway, why I got that error? I said the name of the function is pcat. That's the pcat2. That's the value that I want to return in that variable. Now, if you notice down here, I have pcat. So I copied from above, but I didn't change the name. The same thing here is I said the variable coming in is cat name, and there's no cat name in here at all. So that was also a mistake. So I'm just going to go ahead and put those back with the same names. It's just simpler that way. So I could say CNAME. That way they match up. And I'm just going to take that 2 out. And that's pcat, so that works. And that should be good for now. And let's go check it out and see if we can get it to work. So I'm going to come in here and try it again. And it's going to say which one. I'm going to say that one. And again, it gave me a... And the reason it did that is because I have a duplicate name up here, and so it doesn't know which one to call. So I may edit all this out, and if it's not, I'm sorry. So I'm just going to plug that up, and we're going to try it again one more time. All right, let's try it one more time. So there's only one of those. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on P2, enter, and I didn't get an error, so apparently it must be working. And there's 10,000 records, so it does take a second for it to format that out. And notice I got a 0 here in phones and paper for some reason. So now here's the cool thing about it. It's real easy to go and check that out. Why did I get a 0 in phones and paper? Well, because phone is in a simple form here. See how easy that was to find? And the same thing with paper. Paper, that says paper. Let's go check it out again. Why am I getting paper? Phones. Phones. Phones, okay. Okay, there it is, and I don't have any more zeros, I don't believe. We can take a look here and see if there's any zeros. Nope, there they all are. So you can see now, here's the beautiful thing. Check this out. Okay, so what I just did is I just copied this, which is in the XLSM Office 365 format, and I copied it into my XLS file. And what I did is I right-clicked on here, chose Insert, chose Module, and automatically inserted this module. I double-clicked on it, and then I pasted it in here in full. Now let's check this out. Let's go over to our XLS file. See the setting there? Come up here and we can type in VB cat. And I'm going to type it. Come in here, equals. There's my pcat. There's my bookcases. Hit enter. And there it works. It works in any version. Another great reason to do the Excel in VB or do the if statements or do formulas that you have complexity in VB is because you can transfer them easy as that. So you don't have saying it's the wrong version, it's not compatible, things like that. It's transportable. So my whole thing is that I didn't know about functions, and I'm hoping that if you use Excel on a standard, regular basis, and you're doing if statements and you're really hardcore at it, or even semi-hardcore at it, but you're doing repetitive functions and things like that, you can simply take those functions, put them in the VB as a function, and then be able to use them easier. They're easier to edit, easier to read, and easier to share with other people. Okay, I wanted to throw this here at the end here. It's a real simple demo. Here's some students, some grades, homework points, test grades, homework grades, and so on and so forth. And what I decided to do is I said, okay, I'm going to evaluate their grades based on a certain criteria. And I'm going to build that. And I did it, in a sense, 3 different ways. I put it here into an if statement. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. I took the final grades here and just multiply them by a weighted factor. The test grades got 70% of the grade. Homework got 30% of the grades. And then I gave myself a final grade. Now, that's the things that, again, that I like about VB is that it eliminates the 2-step or 3-step process, because sometimes you have to build another column and you have to put an intermittent step in there to get a value that then you want to evaluate further. So then if we have it in the if statement criteria, you can just see how long this is. Let me expand that. Again, see how long that is, and it's complex and hard to digest, in my opinion. And then here it is in the if else way. Again, this is a little simpler, but again, there's lots of commas, and notice you have to remember ands. There's all these ands in there, and again, it's harder to read. It's harder to know what the person's trying to achieve. And so and then I did the same thing here with a VB, and I just want to show you that. So let's flip over here to the VB editor. Now here's something that's very cool, is that in the function you can do those intermittent steps without having an additional column or use an additional cell. So what I said okay, well, the homework is the total homework amount divided by 500 times 100 times 0.3, which means, that's, so it's, if homework was 400 out of 500, they got 75%, right? And then it's a 75% number, so it came out 75, times that by 0.3, whatever that is. Then the test scores, whatever that was, times 0.7, and then I have T grade equaling the 2, and I do that all within the function, and then I do my evaluation. And now, in the other one, we just said if something equals bookcase, then make the value 1, 2, 3, or whatever it was. But just in this one here, I'm saying, okay, if it's greater than 96, they get an A+. Cool. But grades are also, they're different levels. So I said, okay, wonder if you can use an and statement in there, and it's very, very simple to see. See, it's less than 96 and greater than 92, then it's an A. And I just want to show you how easy it is, and you can see what the individual's doing, and it's easier to read. And I like the last one here. If it's less than 70, you did not pass. Now there's another quick sample I want to show you here. Is that I have here is like, say, a region, a district, and a shipping rate. Now the shipping rate is dependent upon the region and the district, okay? So, or a priority. So I have different variables here. You can see, okay, if you're an A and an A, you get 10. If you're an B and an A, you get 9. If you're an A and a B, you get 9. So there's duplication there. There's duplicate values here. So this isn't straight and. So check this out. This is what I want to show you again, how much easier it is to write, because it's more logical. You can write it more logically as you would think it. So here it is. It says, okay, if R, which is region, and district equals A, then your priority code is a 10. Okay? Now here's the cool part here, is that I said else if R equals B and R equals A. Okay? We know those. Or I can say, what if it's this combo too? So I can put an or with ands, and it's much simpler and so much easier to read. So I can say if it's D, B and A, or A and B, then it's 9. And I did the same thing down here. I can say if it's B and C, or C and D, or A and D, it's a 7. So I can put that all together, and it's very much simpler to read. I think it's easier to code too, because I think it's more how we think. Then those if statements sometimes can get very complex, and if you make one error, you click out and just gives you. And so my function is P code. My input, the R, is a string because it's coming as A, B, C, or D. My district is coming as a string A, B, C, or D. And what I'm returning is a value, an integer. Now I can return strings too. I can say this could be, X, Y, and Z. So this would be a string if that's what was returning. These two need to match what you want to return. String would work with numbers, except for it would place them on the left side of the column, and they're not then usable in adding and subtracting unless you change the format of that cell. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, is that these are two quick samples of where it's easy. You can do subroutines or calculations within the function. It doesn't have to be just a straightforward, so you don't have to have those intermittent steps. And you can combine and ors in groups if that's necessary. Well, guys, which one do you think is easier to read? This long if statement? This only has not even 17. It just has 7 pairs of ands in there. Or maybe the if-else. Maybe that helps out a little bit and makes it clearer to easier to debug. In fact, I believe each of these has a mistake in them. And be curious if you can find them and let me know down in the comments. Also, let me know if you think that those are easier to read or write, or do you think this one would be easier to write? Again, let me know in the comments. Well, that's it for me. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, so if you'd like to be informed of new upcoming videos. Until next time, we'll see ya.